Bride has a dream that she marries Prince Charming in a wedding that's long remembered. Uh, and both soon-to-be newlyweds and parents fear the bridezilla syndrome. And so we thought it might be time to revisit what we spend on weddings. So with us today is Jessica Bishop, the founder and editor of the BudgetSavvyBride.com. Jessica, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Gary. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Now, what is there such a thing as an average wedding cost per guest these days, or maybe a range that you could talk to us about?
I'm not sure in particular per guest, but the national average for the United States is about $28,000 for the
Wow.
entire wedding. Obviously, depending on how many guests you invite, that's going to equal a different amount per guest. So, but the national average is about 28,000.
Wow, that's that strikes me as a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, is there any one area that tends to boost the cost of a wedding, or is it a little bit all over?
I mean, you definitely kind of can add up expenses anywhere in terms of like the different things that you need for your wedding. But one thing that I see drives up the cost a lot is the catering and the bar. A lot of people, serve alcohol, and some like to have like an open bar, and that can be really, really costly. So that's a way to really jack up the price very quickly if you're not careful.
Yeah, I suppose no open bar. You could easily ring up a couple $1,000s in just a couple of hours.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely easy to do. So that's, um, one of the things that I tell brides is to find a venue that will allow you to bring in your own alcohol, or, then you can be like more choosy about the price range of the wine or whatever it is that you want to serve, or to just kind of stick to beer and wine and not do the full open bar, because that's kind of where it gets out of control.
Is there a trend away from alcohol at weddings these days, or no?
Um, I don't know. I think it probably depends on the area of the country that you live in. Obviously, like some areas might be a little more conservative, but I think most couples want to really celebrate their day and entertain their guests as much as they can. And so most weddings that I see do have at least some form of alcohol at the weddings.
Now, from your experience, and you obviously see a lot about weddings and have quite a bit of anecdotal evidence to go by. And that is there an area of the wedding that's your favorite for making the wedding seem expensive but actually keeping the cost down?
Um, I would say that I mean, one trick that I used for our wedding was, like I said, the alcohol can be so expensive. So what we did was we found a venue that allowed us to bring our own alcohol in, and we went to Trader Joe's and we bought cases of 2 buck chuck, which is very, very inexpensive wine, and we peeled all the labels off the bottles and put our own personalized labels on those wine bottles that had our monogram on them and our wedding date, and it was like a cute little detail, and so nobody really knew that we had kind of skimped on our wine, and they just thought, oh, that's so cute, they have personal wine bottles. That was a fun trick of mine. Another thing that I always recommend, if you're really looking to cut down on your budget, is to maybe find other things to use as decorations rather than fresh flowers, because they can be very, very expensive, and at the end of the day they only last for the day and then they're gone. So flowers is one area I tend to recommend like cutting back in. There's so many different things you can do. I see a lot of like books as centerpieces, or candles, and things like that that just don't have to cost as much as fresh flowers. So
Now, on your website, the BudgetSavvyBride.com, and we'll link to that at the end.
yeah.
I noticed you have a do-it-yourself section, which has over 20 pages on it, which I loved. What kind of things do you find that brides do themselves, or brides and grooms do themselves to reduce the cost of a wedding?
Definitely a lot of decor items. I feel like not only does DIY kind of give you a way to save money, but it also adds like a personal touch to your day, makes it more personal and unique. And so I think, decor is definitely a big one, but even a lot of our brides, will have friends and family kind of pitch in and help. And I see, brides having their, aunt or their cousin like arranging their flowers for them, or baking the cake, to save money, because, we all have talented friends and family, and so why not kind of bring them in and have them help keep the costs down, and then they also get to kind of contribute to your day, which makes it special as well. So.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I've always liked about the Dollar Stretch over the years, we've always had a section called My Story, where we have readers share their best ideas. And I notice you have a real wedding section that's very similar. Can you share maybe a favorite idea or two that you've picked up from other people on the website?
Oh yeah, we feature at least one, sometimes two, real weddings a week where the brides actually give, a thorough budget breakdown of like how they spent their money. It's one of the things that makes our site unique, because a lot of the wedding websites out there show these beautiful weddings, but in the back of your mind you're thinking, who can actually afford this? This is obviously very expensive. So it really makes it, easier to tell like how much someone spent and how you can save money. There's always like really, really creative aspects to the weddings. A lot of girls will make, their own bouquets. Instead of using fresh flowers, they'll make paper flowers or fabric flowers, things like that. And then at the end of the day, those are things that become like a keepsake that you can actually, put on display in your home, or, kind of have something, that you can incorporate into your lives as newlyweds, and you can look back and remember the day, rather than, a fresh flower bouquet that gets tossed in the garbage at the end of the day. So things like that I think are really special. But I mean, there's been hundreds of weddings that we've featured, so it's hard to really pinpoint just a few. But
now another section that you have on the website that I enjoyed looking at was the Printables section. I know years ago for our wedding, because we had a very tight budget, my wife actually hand wrote the invitations for the wedding, and actually I thought that was at the time it was better than even printed. Anything special from the Printables section that you'd like to talk to people about?
Oh yeah, definitely, and that's an area that we're working on expanding upon. My background professionally was is in graphic design. That's what I got my degree in, and so I like to create items that our readers can download and print out for themselves. A few of the things that I've featured on the site have included table numbers or place cards, things that you could go to a professional stationer and get them, but they would probably be very expensive. These are things that you can download, you can print them yourself, cut them out and put them on display at your wedding, and it's not going to cost you anything other than the paper and the ink. So it's a really great way to save money, and it's a resource that I want to definitely flesh out more over time for our readers.
Now, are there any warning signs that people involved in wedding planning can look at where they can say, this is starting to get out of control?
Well, I think definitely the number one tip for anybody planning a wedding is to really sit down at the very beginning before you taste a piece of cake, before you go and look at a venue or think about booking a photographer. You need to sit down with your fiance and your families if they're contributing, and just kind of figure out what is that magic number you guys are going to be able to come up with for the wedding. Because if you go out and you start booking vendors or putting down deposits, and then you realize, oh no, like we've gone over budget, you really have to get that hammered out first thing to set yourself up for success when it comes to your budget.
Good. That strikes me as very good advice. Know how much you have to spend before you start spending.
Yeah.
And now, did you find that families are often put pressure on young couples to spend more than they might on their own?
Possibly. For me, it was different because we paid for our wedding ourselves, but I know a lot of couples do get help from their families, and the one thing that I hear most from brides is the guest list. Obviously, when your families are contributing, they have a little bit more of a say of who might get invited versus who doesn't. It might end up that a few of your friends get cut from the list because your parents want, someone from work or something like that to join. So that's something that I feel like uh, can be a struggle and definitely could, contribute to going over budget because then you feel the need to add in all these people that maybe you don't personally know but are friends of your parents and things like that. So it's an interesting dynamic. There's many stressful components to planning a wedding for sure, and I would say the guest list is probably the biggest one.
Yeah. Well, Jessica, we thank you for taking time to join us today. We want to encourage people to go visit the Budget Savvy Bride. Get your newsletter. You also have a free ebook on the site. And naturally, we want to encourage people to subscribe to the Dollar Stretcher YouTube channel and find us on various social media and visit our website. And so until next time, this is Gary Foreman inviting you to stretch those wedding dollars. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.